They're saying this is the best start to an NRL season, and it's hard to argue. Hello and welcome to Fox Sports Lab NRL. I'm Eloise Sohier, and with me are NRL greats Josh Morris and Chris Lawrence, alongside stats guru Tim Williams. Let's start with some round 3 highlights. Tim, were you impressed by Josh Schuster's first outing for the Manly Sea Eagles?
Yeah, hey Eloise, incredibly impressed by Josh Schuster. It's funny that they lose Kieran Foran, who was one of the best direct, I suppose, playmakers and ball runners in the competition. Josh Schuster's ability to square up the defensive line is almost second to none in the halves, which for his first essentially game at 5'8" is quite incredible. He had 3 try assists there in that side. Probably the one issue was defensively. He got caught out a few times, which is going to take a little bit of time for him. He also only had 1 run there. So whether that's a match fitness thing, we'll see, but he looked pretty good.
I think that was a talking point in the off-season. Obviously, he made known that he wanted to play 5'8" and that his fitness levels weren't up to scratch. Spent a lot of time in the off-season to get fit. So I think that's going to be his biggest challenge, maintaining his fitness. But yeah, I mean, he's got the skills, as he's shown. There's a lot of John Sutton about him. And I think if he can continue to progress, he's going to have a massive career.
Yeah, absolutely. Another player that impressed in round 3 was, of course, Tessie New, up there for the Dolphins, scoring a number of tries. What's impressed you most about his game?
I think it's his ability coming out of his own end. He's sort of got that Brian Dottall feel about him. He's put on some weight during the pre-season, and it's certainly helped him being able to break tackles coming out of his own end and then finishing as well. 3 tries against the Knights. Playing the Broncos, his old club this week, so he'll want to have a big showing this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big test for them. They are 2 players lighting up the competition. Now it's time for us to turn the blowtorch on a couple of underperformers. First up, obviously, the Storm. Back-to-back losses, Chris. It's not like what we like to see from Craig Bellamy's team.
Yeah, well, I think we spoke about it last week. We were expecting a bounce back, particularly in the effort and the attitude. It was something they were challenged by Craig Bellamy in that sort of round 2 loss. So coming up against the Tigers this week, I'm hoping it's 3 in a row for them, which is unlikely for them. But again, they are probably in uncharted territory for them, to lose 2 in the row in that fashion, and they might be going down, obviously, that spiral of, losing that confidence in how to win.
Yeah, no Jerome Hughes as well. That doesn't hurt the Melbourne Storm's chances coming up against the West Tigers, does it, Tim?
Not at all. So they're obviously losing some key players. Cam Munster's due back this week. The issue in the pre-season was how they were going to fill the void of losing some key forwards. And then we wondered last week with Nelson Sofa-Solomona out, even though they had a few players back, including Tui Kamikamica, how they'd respond to that. And the forward pack, they weren't great again. But you look at the back 5, who didn't help out too much either. Justin Olam was the only player to run for over 100 metres in the back line. He ran for 102 metres. So even the pack, they're not getting a lot of help there.
I think with the Storm at the moment, they're their own worst enemy. Harry Grant's trying to win them games off his own bat, but there's just players making just schoolboy errors and it's not helping them. And that's the frustration that Craig Bellamy's coming out with. They need to address that, because if they do it again this week, the Tigers will win. Yeah,
absolutely. Would you be rushing Cameron Munster back just given where the side's at the moment?
I think if he's ready to go, he'll obviously play, and he's probably the type of player that, if he is, 90% fit, he could probably come and play, but his presence of being on the field gives everyone that air of confidence, and I think in terms of being their own worst enemy, as Josh said, they have that confidence that they can win in the back end of the game because they have someone like Cam Munster, so he does calm them down. So I think even if he's not 100% fit, he's likely to play because of that confidence he brings everyone.
Yeah, certainly not the side we've seen before in previous years gone by with the Melbourne Storm. Another side, North Queensland, a bit of an underwhelming start to kick off 2023, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, they were so dominant through their forward pack last season. We saw on the weekend against the Warriors, the Warriors actually ran for 400 metres more than that pack, which is quite disappointing. One player that's probably disappointing a little bit this season has been Jeremiah Nanai. We know what he can do with ball in hand and how explosive he is in attack. He's one of the best try-scoring forwards in the game, if not the best. He's had 14 runs across the first 3 rounds for a tick over 100 metres. I'd just like to see him take some tougher carries, get more involved in the game, a bit like what Dave Fafita's done at the Titans this season. Hopefully he can lift in coming weeks. I'm sure the Cowboys can bounce back, but tough start.
Do you think with that, that the element of surprise has gone from the Cowboys? I mean, they shocked everyone last year, and particularly the first half of the year, sides probably weren't game planning, preparing for what they were going to come up against. Now they're well aware, those guys, Jeremiah and Nanai, they're well aware of their strengths. They're really up for the games, and they're probably, game planning against, taking away some of their strengths. And it's always going to be the question mark, coming into the season, how can they adapt and change when sides are coming up against them?
Cowboys coming up against the Titans. Just quickly, Josh, can the Cowboys get the job done over an in-form Titans side?
Yeah, they'll look to be a whole heap better than what they were against the Warriors. I think they can do it, but it is going to be a close game for sure.
Yes, there you have it. The heat is on the Cowboys and the Storm. It's a rematch of last year's grand final, but those days seem so far away for the struggling Eels. Chris, is grand final revenge enough for the Eels to get the job done over Penrith?
Look, I think it is. I think not only that, but there's going to be a level of desperation. They're 0-3. They don't want to go 0-4. They've obviously made the grand final the previous year. It's a must-win game so early in the season. So I think they're going to really bring that energy. In saying that too, they've also beaten the Panthers in the regular season games in the last couple of years, so they will have that level of confidence that they can beat them.
Where has it been going wrong for the Eels so far in the first 3 rounds?
Look, I think they've scored plenty of points, but I think their defence, particularly on the edge, have been leaking too many points, especially for a top 4 team and a team that has made the grand final last year. They really need to tighten that up, and I think as well Mitch Moses' goal kicking has been the difference in the last couple of weeks as well.
They welcome back Ryan Madison. That's a big boost for them.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to feel like he's let the team down. Taking those a couple of weeks off, he's going to lead the energy. He's going to be the aggressor, and I think he can help them get across the line.
So who gets the win and why, Chris?
I'm with the Eels. I think they're desperate. They're going to have plenty of energy, and I think they've got the wood over Panthers.
There you have it. So much riding on this game for the winless Eels. If they go 0-4, it's a long road back. They're calling this the Battle of Brisbane. So Josh Morris and Tim Williams, can Wayne Bennett lead his side to victory over his old club?
Look, anything's possible. We saw in round 1 them ambush the Roosters, and I'm sure Wayne will have them ready for this game. The key concern is the loss of Kaufusi. He's been setting the tone defensively for them. Who steps up and takes his spot? Also, the Broncos, they were in a tight game for 70 minutes and then in the last 10 minutes ran away with it, which is what you want to see when you're in those arm wrestles, that ability to go another gear. So I'm tipping the Broncos.
Yeah, look, you don't want to underestimate, obviously, the Dolphins, what they've done the first 3 rounds of this season. They've been fantastic, but I do think the Broncos are going to be too strong in this one. They've actually had 250 more post-contact metres than second place in the NRL, which is the Parramatta Eels. There's 100 metres back to third place, another 100 metres back to fourth place. Obviously off the back of Payne has Pat Carrigan, who have been outstanding, so I think Brisbane are too strong. Yeah,
that certainly is a big stat. Now, what about the likes of the 2 fullbacks coming up against each other? Who's impressed most, do you think, to start the season in terms of Reece Walsh or Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow?
Reece Walsh for me. I think he missed the first round and then he's come on and put out 2 brilliant displays. Lights it up with his pace. They're both genuine speedsters, but I think Reece Walsh is more valuable to the team.
Yeah, it's been good to see Hammer, more than anything, just his involvement in games, having 15 plus runs per game for the Dolphins. Reece Walsh, he was fantastic. Was relatively quiet the first half last week, but the last 10 minutes he came and stood up when it mattered with 2 late tries, so Reece Walsh for me.
Yeah, there you have it. It'll only be a matter of days before we find out who truly rules the city of Brisbane.
League is life. It's exhilaration, anticipation, highs and highlights. League is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for League fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
There's little love lost between the Dragons and Sharks. They've been at each other since 1967. Josh Morris is alongside me. Josh, you've been on both sides of the fence in this one. Can the Dragons' rivalry with this club break that 5-game losing streak they have against the Sharks?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. I think the Sharks bring back Nico Hines this week. He's a massive inclusion, the Dally M medalist. I think Craig Fitzgibbon wouldn't be happy with the way that they faded in last week's game defensively. But he'll have them humming. He knows how important these clashes are, and I think the Sharks are a good thing.
What about the Dragons? The way they fell away in that game, and it really was a poor performance at the back end of that. How do they address that this week to ensure it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, they were right in the game until the 70th minute, and then you saw the Broncos run away with it. They need to figure out where they went wrong and make sure that it doesn't happen again, because these rivalries are so close, and if one mistake could mean the difference between winning and losing. I thought their young fellas performed really well, and they'll need them to perform well again if they're to win.
So who's your tip in this one and why?
Yeah, I'm tipping the Sharkies. I think Nico Hines will bring back that attack. They've been a little bit clunky. He'll bring that back, and Craig Fitzgibbon will have them humming defensively.
Yeah, there you have it. Nico Hines' return is a big one, and you can be guaranteed drama when these 2 sides meet in what will be a blockbuster finish to round 4. Welcome back. The panel has reassembled and they are ready to deliver their round 4 tips. Let's start with the Rabbitohs-Sea Eagles clash. There are so many subplots to this game. Chris, I'll start with you. Latrell Mitchell up against Tom Trbojevic.
I'm really looking forward to this matchup. You can make a case that these are the 2 best players in the game. They have such an impact on the game, and it's their ability to score tries and make breaks from anywhere. They can run over the top of you, beat you with the fend or beat you with speed. So I think the result of this game is going to come down to whoever is going to, out of those 2, have a big impact.
What about obviously the matchup with Cody Walker and Josh Schuster? That's going to be a battle in the halves.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we saw Josh Schuster come back and was one of the best players on the field for Manly. Last week, Cody got a bit frustrated at times versus the Roosters. He'll want to come and put on a big performance, especially against a young 5'8" and Schuster.
What about Anthony Seibold? And obviously he's just taken over Manly this year, but impressive what he's done so far, Tim. Do you like what you've seen from Manly so far?
They've been fantastic early on. Obviously had the early bye there, so 2 games, 2 wins. They've looked brilliant. Look, the Bunnies, history would say they get the nod in this one. They've won 13 plus against Manly the last 4 times that they've played against each other. However, I just think they've got so many middle forwards out. They cannot take a trick, the poor buggers, this season. So I'm in favour of Manly, and I don't know about you boys, but what's impressed me is their pack. It's not the biggest name pack in the competition, but Chris, they're getting the job done, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that they know their role. Obviously, they've got Cherry Evans directing them round, Schuster as well, but they're just doing their job. They're going forward. They're giving guys like Cherry and Tommy Turbo the opportunity to take advantage of it. And when you've got those guys in the side, all they need is opportunities.
You're backing the Rabbitohs in this one, Chris.
I am backing the Rabbitohs. That was before I realised a lot of their forward pack are out, so I think it's going to be a lot closer. But I'm tipping it's going to be a high-scoring game and a close contest nonetheless.
And you 2 have both got Manly in this one. Well, not many would have predicted the Warriors and the Bulldogs to be in the top 8 after 3 rounds, but here they are. So who takes the points in this one and who holds their spot, Josh?
Yeah, look, I think the Dogs can win this one. They don't have the best record against the Warriors, but I think that they've got that confidence now of a couple of wins under their belt. The morale around the place is really good. So I think they can take that into this week. The Warriors were good on the weekend, but I just think the Dogs have got enough attack to get them over the line. I
think with that, the big change so far in the first couple of rounds, and it's a long season, in the Warriors has been their defence. And I was fortunate enough to have Andrew Webster as an assistant coach at the Tigers, and know he went over the Panthers and did some great work with their defence. So his defensive philosophy is all about working for each other and keeping moving, and it's probably something that the Warriors over the past few seasons haven't been known for. They're great in attack, but that ability to shut out tries, and if he can keep them moving and they can work for one another and they can stop that 1 or 2 tries per game, that can be the difference between them winning an extra 3 or 4 games this season.
Tim, who do you like in this one of the Warriors and the Dogs?
Yeah, look, certainly the toughest game of the round to pick for me, but I've sided with the Warriors just due to the home ground advantage. What I've loved about the Warriors this season is just the squad selection in terms of, I should call it roster management. They've had a lot of key injuries to their packs. I mean, Jackson Ford was out last week, Mitch Barnett's out this week, but they've got so many forwards between Tohu Harris and Ford and Mitch Barnett, Murata Niokore, who can go in between the middle and the edge, so they're able to counter for these injuries, and they've shown it early on, so it bodes really well for them going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the Green Machine is finally humming after a good win over the Sharks. Can they get the role against the injury-hit Knights? It's a tough task for the Knights. They are missing a few still, Josh.
Yeah, they are. It's not getting any easier for the Knights, and the Raiders had a gritty win over the Sharks down there in the nation's capital. So I think they've got that confidence. I think the Raiders can go on with this, particularly what we spoke about there with the injuries. I just don't see the cohesion in the Knights side. That gives me a lot of confidence that they can get the win.
What impressed you most about the Raiders at the weekend in their big win?
They've been pretty gritty all season, and finally they got the result. They're not the kind of side that are going to have a lot of points in them. They're not going to win a lot of games 13 plus, I don't think, this year. We could see by the end of the year them having just about every single game decided by 1 to 6, 1 to 12 sort of points. The weekend was no different. The forward pack got moving a lot better than they had been in the past, so Josh Papali'i's back in this week. That'll only help.
That's a massive inclusion.
And you're backing the Raiders in this one too,
yeah,
Chris?
With the Raiders, I think, as we said, they're the type of side, they can win ugly and just put 2, 3, 4 games in a row together, and I think they'll continue their winning ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Look to continue their winning ways. Well, Chris is the only one going for the Rabbitohs, while the other 2, they've backed Manly. Josh is on his own backing the Dogs in the Warriors game, and we've got all behind the Broncos to be the Kings of Brisbane. Thanks, Chris, Josh and Tim for your time here this evening, and don't forget to subscribe below and follow us on socials. We'll be back on Fox Sports Lab NRL next week.
League is life. It's exhilaration, anticipation, highs and highlights. League is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for league fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.